Dear students, today I Miss Hemta Pathak, PGT Biology, is here with a PowerPoint presentation on the unit Reproduction, class 12th. The first lesson of the unit is the reproduction in organisms. We should know about the reproduction, what is it, how it is being defined. It is a process in which an organism produces the offsprings of its own kind. It is a natural inherent capability of the individual that maintains the species on the earth. Every organism has its own lifespan. Lifespan is the period between the birth and the natural death of an organism. There are some organisms which have the lifespans of few minutes, and there are some which have the lifespan of many years. A chart has been shown where the lifespan of different organisms have been shown. Here I just want to quote the lifespan of the human beings. It is 100 years which has been shown, but now it has gone down to 60 to 70 years. Reproduction is of two types: asexual as well as sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is the reproduction in which only one organism is required, whether it's a male or the female, is capable enough to produce the offsprings. It is of different ways. Number one, such as fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, sporulation, and so on. Fission, when I say fission, these are the all parts which you have already studied in class 10th. Fission is of two types. Number one, binary fission and multiple fission. Then binary fission again we classify into two types: the regular as well as the irregular fission, which is being seen, especially irregular binary fission which is seen especially in amoeba, and regular binary fission which is seen in Euglena, the paramecium. Multiple fission, where the large number of organisms are being formed, like in the plasmodium. Then vegetative propagation is the means of reproduction which is generally seen in case of plants. Any part of the plant other than the reproductive part, the flower, when it is capable enough to produce the offsprings. Here you can see in this diagram the reproduction by leaf in bryophyllum by means of underground stems, modified stems, like in ginger, like in potato. Potato is a tuber, ginger which is a rhizome. Then here you can see the bulbil and the offset. Bulbils are seen in caves of agave, which are the flower buds, and offset, it is a type of runner which is seen in water hyacinth. Sorry, it is a type of sucker in water hyacinth. Water hyacinth is of prime importance because it will be included in the last unit of your syllabus, that is the environment or the ecology. Water hyacinth, it is known as the terror of Bengal. This plant, in fact, it's a weed. It is not the native of India. It is a native of Brazil. It was being introduced by the Britishers in India just for its beautiful leaves in West Bengal. But slowly, it has just spread its tentacles in such a way that it has become quite difficult to get rid of this weed from Bengal. It has been observed that it is a major cause of eutrophication in the water bodies of West Bengal. That's why it's known as the terror of the Bengal. This question is generally being asked in the board exam. Please be very careful for that. Asexual reproductive structures. Now, when we speak about asexual reproduction, there are different types of methods by which the asexual reproduction occurs. Here, a term which is being given in your syllabus, which is about the spores. When spores, these are the macroscopic reproductive units. There are two types which are found especially in a lower group of organisms, like algae, the fungi. These spores are two types: the zoospores, zoospores, as well as the aplanospores. Zoospores, which are motile structures which keep on moving, they are found in the aquatic organisms, whereas the aplanospores, like such as conidia, which are non-motile, which are generally seen in case of fungus. Then buds, you can see a diagram of the bud, especially in the hydra, which produces towards the outside of the body and gives rise to the new offspring. And a new term has been introduced here, that is the gemule. Gemules are also the buds, but which are not produced outside. They are produced endogenously inside the body and space of the sponges. The sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of the male and the female gametes. It requires the two partners, the male and the female. Here they produce the gametes. The gametes fuse and then forms a diploid structure which is called the zygote. And the zygote develops into a new organism. Students, I just want to tell you here, when I have just told you about the lifespan. After in the lifespan of an organism, it undergoes different stages such as juvenile phase, the reproductive or maturity phase, aging and senescence, and finally the death. Juvenile phase. This is, you can just compare with the puberty stage or the adolescence stage also. This is a stage when the vegetative development of this is a stage prior to the reproductive stage. And in plants, normally the vegetative growth is generally being seen, no flowering. After that, by the maturity of the reproductive organisms takes place, the formation of gametes, and in plants, the flowers are being formed. Fertilization is over, and after that, now the organism undergoes a stage of degradation in the body. We call it the aging or senescence. Senescence, the term which normally used for the plants, aging especially for the animals, and that leads slowly to the degradation of their various body parts, cells, organs, and leads to the death of an organism. Breeding of animals. Now when I say the animals, when they breed, they are, we find there are two type of breeding in the organisms. Some are animals, they breed in a particular season, and some breeds throughout the life. So seasonal breeders, as well as we call them continuous breeders. Now, mammals, here I'm coming. Let us move to the mammals. In mammals, normally the reproduction, there are two stages in the life, in the reproductive phases. Number one is the oestrus cycle, and the second is the menstrual cycle. Oestrus cycle is seen especially in the seasonal breeders, whereas the menstrual cycle is found in the continuous breeding breeders among mammals. So this is found oestrus cycle in non-primate mammals like cows, sheep, so on. Whereas menstrual cycle, especially monkeys, apes, humans, this is the group of the primates. A unique phenomena especially quoted in your first lesson. It is about the bamboo as well as the strobilanthes kunthiana. Bamboo is a plant which flowers only once in its lifetime, that is from 50 years to 100 years after flowering, produces seeds, and then it finishes. Its life is over. Whereas Strobilanthes kunthiana, known as Neel Kuranji, because the flowers are violet or the bluish in color, it has a unique feature. It blooms or it produces flowers once in 12 years. It and it is found especially in the hilly regions of southern part of our country like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and the face is beautiful during that time. From it is of tourist attraction because whole the hilly patch areas are being covered with, seems to be blue or the violet. Reproduction in flowering plants uh, can be studied on the basis of their lifespan only. The animals are classified here as annual, biennials, and perennials. Annual means which complete their life cycle within a year. Biennials requires 2 years for completing the life cycle, and perennials requires many years. Children, now sexual reproduction events. Sexual reproduction events are classified into three types. Number one, pre-fertilization, second, fertilization, and post-fertilization. Pre-fertilization means before fertilization, the changes which are taking place in the reproductive organs, the formation of the gametes which is taking place, and then finally the gamete they fuse and forms the zygote. We call it a fertilization. And after fertilization, what happens to a zygote? It undergoes embryogenesis. It forms the embryo and finally the organism. In pre-fertilization events, the first which I've already mentioned, the gametogenesis. Gametogenesis means the formation of the gametes, the sperms, the egg, the pollen grain, egg, so on. And gamete transfer means how the gametes are being transferred from one body into the another body. Plants, we use the term that is the here again. Before I come to the plants part, let us see the gametogenesis, which I've already mentioned to you. Now gametogenesis, the gametes which are being formed, they could be classified into two types: isogametes or homogametes or heterogametes. If the gametes are similar in structure, the male gamete and female gamete, they are not morphologically distinct. We call them as isogametes. And heterogametes, if the male and female gametes, they are morphologically dissimilar. In human beings, and now the various terms are being given over here: homothallic, then the monoecious, dioecious, staminate, pistillate. What are these conditions? We should be aware of these things. I just start from the hermaphrodite first one. Hermaphrodite means a structure, a body which consists of the male reproductive as the female reproductive bodies, organs in the same body. They are called the hermaphrodites, or we call them the bisexual organisms. Now about the unisexual organisms. Unisexual means which have either got the male parts or the female part. But there are some organisms, especially, or the some plants generally, which have got the male as the female part in the same body separately. Especially for the plants, we normally use the term here, the monoecious. And here, if the male part and the female part are they are present in the separate bodies, then we call them the dioecious. So we are the dioecious organisms, and in monoecious you normally call the cucurbits, where you see the cucumbers, pumpkins, that shows that they are the monoecious plants. Here the diagram has been shown over there. You can see, I just want to show you the Markenschia here. In this Markenschia, where the male thallus and the female thallus are completely separate, so they show dioecious condition over here. And in the above top, you can just see this is the hermaphrodite and the earthworm, where the male structure and the female structure are present in the same body. Let us see then the next one, that is cell division. Now the gametes, it is easy to say that the gametes fuse, but how the gametes, which cell division takes place for the formation of the gametes? Here the cell division, in 11th class you've studied the mitosis as is the meiosis. Now the cell division, where the which results in the formation of the gametes, is the meiosis, where the chromosome number is reduced to half. Like in human beings, the total chromosome number is 46. This is called the 2n. We call this condition as diploid. And this diploid cells, when they divide by meiosis, they result in the formation of haploid cells. We denote by them n. And these cells, they have got 23 number of chromosomes. The cells which divide by meiosis, they are called the gamete mother cells, or we also call the meiocyte. I'm just putting emphasis on the term meiocyte. Sometimes the children get confused in this term. Please note it down. Well, children, coming back to the plants part, here how the gametes are being transferred, especially now gametes are transferred by means of pollination. The pollen grains, the transfer of gametes, the pollen grains from the anther to the stigma is known as the pollen grains, or is known as the pollination. Once the pollen grains fall on the stigma, they germinate, forms the pollen tube, and results in the fusion of male and female gamete, which is called the syngamy. Syngamy results in formation of the zygote. Here you can see the pollen tubes, the longitudinal section of the stigma showing the germination of the pollen grains on it and with the pollen tubes. After pollen tubes, the fertilization takes place, which I've already mentioned, results in the formation of the zygote. But again, the biology is the science of exceptions. There are some organisms which are formed without fertilization. This phenomena is known as parthenogenesis. Here, the female structure, the female egg, without undergoing fertilization, it develops into an organism called as parthenogenesis. Type of fertilizations, they have two type of fertilization, external and internal. In the fertilization, the male and female gametes, they are released in the water bodies outside the body, and then the fuses over there. We call it external fertilization, and if it takes place within the body, then it is called internal fertilization. After fertilization, what are the post-fertilization? Post means after fertilization, the events which are taking place inside in the organism or the zygote. Zygote divides, redivides, and it gives rise to the embryo. Embryo develops into an organism. So we call it as embryogenesis. This is the process of development of embryo from the zygote. We call it embryogenesis. The flowchart has been shown. Now, the organism has been formed. It again will undergo and come in the juvenile phase, then a reproductive phase. In the reproductive phase, now how it will produce the offspring? Either does it give rise to the complete individual, or it just gives to the stage of development stage or the eggs. So if the organisms they reproduce, they lay eggs, we call them oviparous. If they give birth to the offspring, we call them the viviparous. Offspring again, oviparous and vivipary, both of them, they're quite difficult here. Both of them again a part which is being asked in the board examination many times. What is the advantage of vivipary of the over ovipary? Please, viviparous organisms, they are being well developed. They are being protected well by the parents. They have got good protection from their predators. Whereas oviparous organisms, they are at the risk of risk from the predators. It's being given there, the fertilizers in oviparous animals. Again, the eggs are being covered by the hard cells just for their protection, but still they are at a risk. Finally, now the zygote. In the flowering plants, the zygote is formed inside the ovule. Now, after fertilization, the zygote divides, redivides, and the whole ovary of the flower converts into the fruit, and the ovule converts into the seed. Thank you very much. See you in the next PPT next time.